Oklahoma Panhandle, Oklahoma, April 1935. The sky turned brown before noon. The air itself began to move against the people. Fences vanished first. Crops followed. Lungs burned next. At the western edge of Beaver County, something different was happening. From the outside, it looked wrong. Low, half-buried, like a failed root cellar abandoned too early. But inside, something no one expected was taking shape. Martha Ellen Caldwell, 34, widow. They stopped believing she would fail on April 17, 1935. Her hands never stopped moving. Not when the wind pushed grit through every seam of her dress. Not when the children coughed themselves awake at 2 a.m. and again at 4:15. She packed another sod block into place, pressed it down, measured it by eye. 3 years earlier, July 9, 1932. The river crossing south of Guyman ran higher than usual. Thomas Caldwell misjudged the wagon angle by less than 12 inches. The rear wheel slid. The axle snapped. The current took him 40 feet downstream before anyone could grab hold. They buried him on July 11th with 9 men present and 2 borrowed shovels. He left behind $217 in feed debt, 2 children, Samuel 9, Ruth 6, and a house that could not keep out the wind. By October 1933, the boards had warped 3 inches apart in places. By January 1934, frost formed on the inside walls by dawn. The stove burned 18 logs a day, and still the water bucket froze solid by morning. People noticed. They always do. Widow. Burden. Soon gone. Mrs. Halverson at the church said it quietly. She won't last the winter. Earl Dunning at the grain office said it louder. She's feeding that stove more than her children. At McCreary's general store, Walter Pike leaned over the counter and said she had lost her sense. They expected her to leave by March 1934, then by November, then by February 1935. She did not leave. She watched instead. She counted things others ignored. Wind direction at 6 a.m. versus 3 p.m. Soil moisture at 4 inches versus 12 inches. The way heat stayed longer in ground that had not been broken for at least 5 years. Her father had been a sod house builder near Dodge City in 1891. She remembered the thickness he insisted on, 24 inches minimum, never less. He said the earth held heat like a slow heartbeat. She remembered her grandmother saying the ground never forgot the sun. In March 1935, she began digging. Not a full house, not a cabin, something lower, something the wind could not grab. She marked out 18 feet by 12 feet, measured again, then cut 2 feet deeper into the north-facing slope behind her existing shack. The children watched. Samuel carried water in a 1-gallon tin. Ruth stacked loose sod pieces in piles of 15. By April 3rd, the hole reached 6 feet deep at its lowest point. By April 8th, she began stacking the walls. Each sod block measured roughly 16 inches long, 12 inches wide, 4 inches thick. She laid them like bricks, offset each row by half a block, pressed wet clay between seams. Her hands split open by the 3rd day. By the 5th, the skin hardened. By the 9th, a falling block crushed her left thumbnail black. She wrapped it in cloth and kept working. Dirt filled her boots by the hour. Her back bent in ways that did not return straight by nightfall. She did not speak about it. On April 10th, a neighbor stopped his wagon 30 yards away. Frank Halverson. He squinted at the structure. "You building a root cellar?" he asked. She did not look up. "Something like that." He nodded once, left without understanding. By April 12th, the roof frame went in. Salvaged timber. 7 beams, each 8 feet long, spaced 18 inches apart. She layered it. First brush, then 4 inches of packed dirt, then sod again. The entrance angled down at 30 degrees. A tunnel 6 feet long, just wide enough for one person. By April 14th, the structure disappeared from a distance. Only a slight rise in the ground marked it. The wind passed over it. Did not catch. Inside, the ceiling sat at 6 feet 2 inches. Low enough to trap heat. High enough to stand. She placed the stove near the south wall. Short chimney. Only 3 feet. Above ground level. Less draw. Less heat lost. On April 16th, the sky changed. The air grew still at 11:20 a.m., too still. The kind of silence that comes before something arrives uninvited. Birds vanished first. Then the light dimmed. By 2 p.m., the wind returned. Not as a breeze. As force. The dust came with it. Not drifting. Driving. Fences began to disappear. post by post. 200 yards gone in less than 3 hours. At McCreary's, Walter Pike boarded the windows with 6 planks. Earl Dunning burned through 22 logs by nightfall. Inside their homes, grit coated every surface by midnight. At the edge of the county, Martha Caldwell sealed the door. Inside temperature, 58 degrees. Outside temperature dropped from 72 to 41 in 6 hours. The storm did not ask permission. It simply came. She sat on the packed earth floor. Samuel beside her. Ruth wrapped in a blanket. The walls did not move. The air stayed still. She said nothing. They listened to the world scrape itself raw above them. The town gathered anyway. Dust still hung in the air at 9 a.m. on April 18th. It settled into collars, into teeth, into the folds of every curtain. But McCreary's General Store opened its door. Men came in wiping their eyes. Boots left tracks that vanished under a new layer of brown within minutes. The storm had taken 200 yards of fence from Dunning's west line, 3 chicken coops from the Halverson place, and most of the pride from anyone who thought their walls were enough. Martha walked in at 9:12. Same dress, same pace. Dust clung to her sleeves, but not her face. They noticed that. Harold Whitaker stood near the stove. Civil engineer. Graduated from Kansas State in 1911. Built 47 timber-framed houses across Texas and Oklahoma. Survived 19 winters on the plains. He looked at her once. Then again. You buried your house, he said. No one laughed yet. They waited. He stepped closer. Earth holds moisture. Moisture steals heat. Your walls will sweat, then freeze, then collapse. Give it 30 days. Silence held for half a second. Then it broke. Walter Pike leaned on the counter. Or she'll be back asking for lumber by May 10th. Laughter this time. Short, sharp, certain. Behind them, a man in a pressed coat cleared his throat. Leonard Briggs, county land agent, controlled 312 parcels across Beaver County. Filed notices for missed payments without hesitation. He unfolded a paper. Did not look at her. Mrs. Caldwell, your outstanding balance stands at $217. Payment due by June 1st, 1935. Failure results in seizure of property. He folded it again. Precise. Final. The room watched her. She spoke once. Understood. For syllables. Nothing more. She turned. Walked out. No argument. No defense. By April 20th, the wind returned. Not as strong, but steady, relentless. She worked anyway. Week 1 ended with the walls at full height, 24 inches thick on all sides. North wall pressed directly into the hillside. No exposure, no direct wind impact. Week 2 began with sealing. She mixed clay and sand at a 3-to-1 ratio. Added water until it held shape when squeezed. Pressed it into every seam, inside and out. Her hands cracked again. Blood mixed into the mortar by the 3rd hour. She did not stop. Samuel counted blocks. Reached 312 before losing track. Ruth carried smaller pieces. Stacks of 10 at a time. She tripped once. Fell hard. Got up without crying. By April 23rd, the roof settled. No sag. No shift. She tested it. Walked across the top slowly. Her weight pressed down. The structure held. That night, temperature dropped to 38 degrees. Inside, 57. She burned 3 logs. Not 18. Not even 10. 3. On April 24th, another passerby stopped. Different tone this time. Earl Dunning pulled his wagon to within 15 yards. Looked at the mount. Looked at her. You fixing drainage? He asked. She wiped her hands on her dress. Living space. He frowned. Did not understand. Drove on. By April 26th, she finished the entrance tunnel. 6 feet long. 4 feet high. Angled downward so wind could not push straight in. She added a second door at the inner end. 2 barriers. 2 breaks in airflow. That decision mattered. By April 28th, the chimney was complete. Clay-lined. Short. Only 36 inches above the surface. Less draw meant less heat escaping. Smoke still rose, but slower. Controlled. Her body paid for each improvement. Her shoulders ached constantly by then. A deep pull that did not release even at night. Her right wrist swelled to nearly double its size after lifting a beam alone. She wrapped it tight with cloth. Kept working. Food ran thin. They rationed to 2 meals a day. Cornbread. Beans. Water measured in half-tin portions. She lost weight. Her dress hung looser by the week. Her cheeks hollowed. She stopped counting the aches somewhere after April 25th, but the structure stood. On April 30th, she made one final adjustment. She lowered the interior ceiling with an extra layer of sod, dropped it from 6 feet 2 inches to just under 6 feet. Heat had less space to fill. That night, outside temperature fell to 35 degrees. Inside, 60. No one saw that number yet, but it was there, waiting. On May 2nd, 1935, the wind rested. Not gone, just watching. The sky cleared to a pale gray that did not feel honest. That night, the temperature dropped to 33 degrees. Cold enough to test, not cold enough to warn. Caleb Turner rode out at 8:40 p.m. Local schoolteacher, 31 years old, known for keeping records others ignored. He had heard the talk. He had seen the mound from a distance. He dismounted 20 yards away, walked the rest. The structure looked smaller up close, lower than expected. No corners for the wind to grab, no edges to lift. He knocked once, waited. She opened the outer door, then the inner. Warm air met him immediately, not strong, but steady. He stepped inside. The stove held a small fire, 3 logs, half burned. He removed his glove, pressed his palm against the wall. Not damp, not cold, held. He glanced at the thermometer hanging near the entrance. 56 degrees. He blinked once, looked again. Outside, his horse's breath had frozen into the air at 33. Inside, she held 56, a difference of 23 degrees. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Not agreement, not disbelief, just acknowledgement. Winter had barely started. The real test was still coming. She handed him a cup of water. He drank, set it down. She returned to her seat. No explanation, no defense. He left at 9:05 p.m., rode back into the dim light, carried the number with him. Before we go further, has anyone in your family ever built something like this to survive? Share it below. These stories deserve to be heard. On May 4th, the first sign came. Not wind. Not yet. Silence again. Thicker this time. Heavier. By 6:10 a.m., the horizon disappeared. Not gradually. All at once. By 7 a.m., the temperature began to fall. From 61 to 50 in 1 hour. Then 50 to 42 by 9 o'clock. A drop of 19 degrees in less than 3 hours. The air moved next. At 10:15 a.m., wind struck from the northwest. Not steady. Violent. It hit in bursts. 40 miles per hour. Then 55. Then stronger. The dust followed. It did not drift. It charged. Visibility dropped to 20 feet by noon. Then 10. Then less than 5. At McCreary's, Walter Pike nailed 8 boards across the front. Inside his home, temperature fell to 44 degrees by evening. He burned 21 logs by 6 p.m. At Earl Dunning's place, the stove never stopped. He fed it every 35 minutes. 18 logs gone before nightfall. Inside temperature, 46. In the Caldwell bunker, the door sealed at 11:05 a.m. Inside temperature, 59. 3 logs burned slowly. 1 added at noon. 1 at 4 p.m. 1 at 9 p.m. total, 5 logs for the day. Outside, the temperature dropped to 38 by 3 p.m., then 34 by 6 o'clock, then 29 by 10 p.m. Inside, 57. Whitaker's timber house, 43 degrees. Caldwell bunker, 57 degrees. Dunning burning 18 logs by evening. Caldwell burned 5 total. Family stuffing rags into window gaps. Caldwell sitting still, air unmoving. The wind searched for weakness. It found none. The storm pressed down, layer by layer, hour by hour. By midnight, 2 inches of dust covered the ground. By 2 a.m., it reached 4 inches. Fences vanished again. Another 80 yards gone from the west line. Inside, Ruth slept. Samuel watched the door once, then stopped. She adjusted the stove once more, then let it rest. The structure held. The earth did what wood could not. By May 5th, 1935, the storm deepened. Not louder, heavier, as if the air itself had weight. At 3:20 a.m., the temperature outside reached 27 degrees. The wind did not slow. It pressed harder. It drove dust into places that had never known it. Inside, the air held at 56. Then something changed. Ruth began coughing. Not the dry cough from dust. Deeper. Wet. By 4:05 a.m., her skin burned under Martha's hand. Fever. Sudden. Sharp. Samuel checked the water bucket. Solid. Frozen through. Every drop. The second problem arrived without warning. No water. No easy way out. The storm above had sealed the entrance halfway. Dust packed tight against the outer door. Not impassable, but slow. Time mattered now. Martha looked at the stove, then at the walls. She made one decision. She let the fire die. Samuel stared at her. Did not understand. She moved anyway. Cleared the stove. Pulled the last burning log aside. Let the heat fade. The room cooled. Slow at first. 1 hour. Temperature dropped from 56 to 52. 2 hours. 52 to 49. 3 hours. 49 to 47. Then it stopped falling. The earth held. No flame. No fuel. Still above 45. Ruth shifted under the blanket. Her breathing uneven. Her voice small. Are we going to freeze? Martha answered once. Not in here. For words. Steady. Certain. She wrapped Ruth tighter. Pressed her close to the inner wall. The warmest point. Samuel worked the inner door. Then the outer. It took 14 minutes to clear enough dust to open a gap. Wind forced its way in immediately. Sharp. Violent. He filled a tin with packed snow and dust mixture. Brought it inside. Closed the door again. Martha melted it slowly. Over coals. Not flame. Water returned. Clouded. But usable. By 9:30 a.m., Ruth's fever held at the same heat. Not rising. Not breaking. The structure did not change. Outside, the storm reached its peak. Wind gusts hit 60 miles per hour by noon. Dust accumulation reached 6 inches at the entrance. Visibility dropped to less than 3 feet. At Whitaker's house, one wall began to bow inward. A 2-inch shift at the center beam. Inside temperature, 39. At Dunning's place, wood pile nearly gone. Only 7 logs left by 1 p.m. Inside temperature, 41. Inside the bunker, 48. No fire for 6 hours. Still above freezing by 16 degrees. The second crisis did not break them. It passed quietly. By 2:15 p.m., Ruth's breathing eased. By 4 p.m., her fever began to drop. By nightfall, she slept without coughing. Martha did not celebrate. She added 1 log back to the stove. Watched the temperature rise from 48 to 53 over 2 hours. Then she sat. The storm above continued. But it had lost something. Not strength. Authority. It could not reach them. On May 6th, at 7:40 a.m., the wind stopped. Not gradually. All at once. The silence returned. Caleb Turner rode out again. He expected damage. Maybe worse. He passed Dunning's land first. Fences gone. Nearly 300 yards buried. House coated in a layer of dust 8 inches thick on the windward side. He rode past Whitaker's place. One window broken inward. Boards scattered. He kept going. Toward the low rise behind the Caldwell shack. He slowed at 25 yards. The structure was barely visible. A smooth mound under 10 inches of dust. No exposed wood. No broken lines. He dismounted. Walked the last steps. He expected silence. Stillness. Something wrong. Instead, movement. Martha stood outside, hanging a damp cloth over a line strung between 2 posts. Her sleeves rolled. Her hands steady. In air that still held grit. In a place where nothing else had held. He stopped walking. For a long moment, he did not move. That he stood there longer than he meant to. Dust shifted under his boots. The wind had left, but its mark remained in every direction. He had expected silence. Expected to find the door sealed. Expected to dig. Instead, she worked. A line stretched 9 feet between 2 posts. 3 cloths hung, each one damp. Each one moving slightly in the weak air. He stepped closer. Stopped at the entrance. She nodded once. Then returned to her work. He opened the outer door. Then the inner. Warmth met him again. Not sharp. Not forced. Steady. He stepped inside. The stove held a low burn. 2 logs this time. Half consumed. He removed his coat without thinking. Laid it across the bench. His eyes moved to the thermometer. Outside, he had measured 28 degrees at dawn. Inside, the glass read 55. He looked at it for a long time. Then he pressed his palm flat against the wall. Same as before. Same result. Held. No dampness. No frost. He exhaled slowly. That is warmer than my home, he said. Even with a full fire. She said nothing. She adjusted the kettle. Checked the door seal once more. He stepped back outside. The land told the rest. Dunning's west fence line, gone. Measured later at 312 yards buried under drifts of dust reaching 11 inches deep. Whitaker's timber frame, still standing, but warped. A 3-inch bow remained in the main support beam even after the wind stopped. By noon, word began to move. Not fast, not loud. One person at a time. Earl Dunning came first at 1:25 p.m. Walked, not rode. His woodpile was down to 3 logs. He stood at the entrance. Looked once. Then again. How thick, he asked. She answered. 2 feet. He nodded. Pulled a small notebook from his coat. Wrote it down. Harold Whitaker came later. 3:40 p.m. He walked around the structure once. Measured steps. Counted quietly. 18 feet. 12 feet. 6 feet deep. He stopped at the entrance. Inside, he removed his hat. Slowly, he pressed his hand against the wall. Held it there. Long enough for the others to notice. He looked at the stove. Then at the thermometer. Outside, 31 degrees. Inside, 54. A difference of 23. He spoke once. I was wrong. 3 words. Nothing more. She nodded. Returned to stacking a small pile of cut wood. 7 pieces. No urgency. Leonard Briggs never came. He sent no letter that week. Nor the next. By June 1st, no one mentioned the $217 again. The numbers spoke instead. Dunning rebuilt using sod by June 18th. His new structure used 14 logs per week, down from 126. Whitaker drew new plans by July 3rd. Adjusted wall thickness to 24 inches. Lowered ceiling height to 6 feet even. Added angled entry tunnels to 9 new builds across the county by August. By the following winter, 17 structures in Beaver County followed her design. By January 1936, it spread to Cimarron County, then into the Texas Panhandle by March. Each one built quiet. No announcements. No gatherings. Just measurements. And work. She remained where she was. Same routine. Up at 5:30 a.m. Fire checked at 6 o'clock. Water drawn at 6:20. Children fed by 7 o'clock. She never claimed it. When asked, she answered in numbers. Or not at all. By 1938, over 60 sod bunkers stood across 3 counties. Most within 5 degrees of her original temperature range. Most using less than 20 logs per week in winter. The structure behind her home remained unchanged. 18 feet by 12. 6 feet deep. The entrance still angled. The chimney still low. The wall still held. Even now, the ground there shows a slight rise. A difference of less than 18 inches from the surrounding land. Easy to miss if you are not looking. But it is still there. The earth does not argue. It does not explain. It simply holds what is placed within it. Sometimes the difference between losing everything and keeping just enough is not money or strength. It is knowing where to stand when the wind begins. If you want more forgotten stories of courage from the American frontier, subscribe. These histories deserve to be remembered.